The Wild Robot is a success so far, and it might continue to make money. But really, what we want to talk about today is the fact that Chris Sanders was a former Disney guy, and now he's over there for DreamWorks doing fantastic work. Also talking about some of the changes there at the studio. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, and I want to welcome you to part 2 of our Wild Robot review. It was a longer conversation than we originally anticipated, and there's a nice little dividing line here where we talk about spoilers for the Wild Robot. Anyways, let's continue this conversation that we had with Morgan Stradling from rotoscopers.com and the Animation Addicts podcast. Links to that in the description.
Also to that art style, amazing art style.
Oh, wow.
It's described here in this Variety article. A Monet painting in a Miyazaki forest. Apparently they did take a lot of inspiration from Hayao Miyazaki with its stylized CG visual style. They wanted it to evoke the concept art that they were working on. They did a great job with that. So definitely a solid 9. And I agree with you, Morgan. I could probably be persuaded to rate that score higher upon subsequent viewings.
Yeah, the characters, I've read a lot where people are really loving the character depth, but with you, I feel like there just needed to be a little bit more with a few characters, like the Fox character. Like we were hinting at things that were happening, and I felt like maybe just one more scene about his backstory or something there would have helped a little bit. But I'm nitpicking here. It was incredibly strong. And the art style, I feel like they did what Wish was trying to do. Wish was trying to have these watercolor backgrounds to evoke this 2D sense. I felt like it was 2D and everything blended seamlessly. I don't know if that was what they were going for, but I really enjoyed looking at this movie. And it was so smooth and beautiful, just and vibrant. I love the color palette that they used. There's a certain scene where something is bright pink everywhere, and it's not a normal color that you would pick. And I just thought they just had really great choices for these pivotal scenes. The flight training one is one that really stands out with the oranges and
also pointing out that Chris Sanders with another flight sequence scene that is really and the soundtrack is perfect and it's earned in the movie. It's not like they're just trying to get there so that they can have another How to Train Your Dragon moment. And that How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack is going to be paying dividends to Universal for decades to come because it's really fantastic. But there is a flight scene in this because it's a movie about a little goose learning how to fly. Gosling, sorry. So let's talk about that third act, and we're clearly in the spoilers territory now. There is obviously this moment where he finds out that he's adopted, and there's this thing about, and you made the reference to that moment. I'm thinking about the moment in Hercules where Philoctetes looks at Hercules and he's like, yeah, well, I guess I'm just like everybody else. And he turns away. There's one of those in almost all of the big Disney films where everyone needs to be separated before everyone comes back for the climax of the film. And Bright Bills isn't quite the climax of the film. His return isn't quite the climax of the film because eventually the Rossum robot, Crystal Dynamics or whatever the name, Universal Dynamics, comes to claim this robot, and they want to clear out her memories, find out what's going on with her. They're going to wipe all that. But there's this character that shows up, and I would have thought she was voiced by Jenny Slate. It's not Jenny Slate who voices this character, but she shows up and she's got these octopus arms, and she's actually saying all the right things that she would need to say to assure her that she's going to be rescued and all of that, but it comes off so evil. It's so good. Like when you can have something that is so easily understood as evil and you're not quite sure why, and it's all in the animation, it's all in the presentation outside of the dialogue. And then of course there's a moment where they just give up on that, and it's the imagery in that last act is very powerful. Eventually there's a moment where, and I'm not going to go full spoilers on this, there's a moment where things get pretty dark, and you know it's going to turn out okay, or you think it's going to turn out okay, and the emotions are really high. I thought they did a great job in this moment of self-sacrifice and everyone understanding how great it was that they are all a part of this unit. Again, not trying to spoil it all. I feel like I'm dancing so close that everyone pretty much knows what I'm saying here. I thought that third act was really, really great.
Yeah. Art direction also too, very, very strong. You have these, they went with like a bright pink fire for that,
Yeah.
and juxtaposes so beautifully with the kind of the twilight night that they have there. It's just really great art direction, and like you said, Jonas, a really good, really good characters featured in that. A really strong third act. I will agree with you.
And this movie was funny. I was laughing throughout constantly. The mom possum, she had lots of funny lines. The kids, the beaver. I really enjoyed that it wasn't comedy, but they had a lot of moments that made me laugh, made me giggle, and just enjoyed myself.
Well, and the animation on Bright Bill for the first part of the film is really, really, really cute, and Disney is using this a lot in the Disney Pixar films. You know, you have little baby Dory, baby Moana, and they're now bringing back Moana's little sister as a kind of like a baby one. It's a I don't want to say it's a cash grab to try to sell toys. It will sell more merch, but they do a really good job with Bright Bill. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to bring up here. There is Matt Berry as Paddler, actually, the beaver that is trying to gnaw down to fell the tallest tree in the forest. I love that interaction because you said I was wishing for more there, but I like the mystery of we don't know why the fox and the beaver hate each other so much. But there's something there that you almost think that it doesn't matter what it is that causes them to hate each other so much. But I like the redemption arc for all of them. The only thing that I thought was just outright silly in this, the only part that made me roll my eyes a little bit, is there's a truce that all the animals decide that there's going to be a truce forever. And for a movie that really contemplates death and the circle of life so much in the first and second act, for the epilogue to be like, we're all going to be friends forever, that one made me go,
you have to eat. That gets
that's
I guess that bear's just gonna die.
In the book, in the very first few chapters, they have this scene like at the morning, like the dawn, the animals have this truce, this unspoken truce, so they can kind of wake up and stretch their legs. I'm trying to remember what exactly it was, so it kind of feels reminiscent of that. But obviously, this idea that you have to overcome your programming or your primal nature and to evolve into something more. And that's what I think they were trying to evoke there. But I mean, they're animals, and this is just the way that it is. So it was just kind of, like you said, roll your eyes a little bit, because this isn't going to last too long.
All right. Well, thank you so much for showing up here, Morgan. I'm always excited to hear about your opinions.
I have one more thing I want to say.
Oh, please do.
We mentioned this briefly, but the budget, $75 million. DreamWorks knows how to run a lean operation. And this was so impressive. Yet again, what they were able to do with that budget. When you're looking at the credits and you see that there's only, 3 people for studio executives or studio leadership, and each one of the departments did not have that many people. And I was just incredibly impressed as I was watching it to see what they were able to do with so little, how much of an impact this movie made. So props to DreamWorks.
Same budget as Lilo and Stitch back in 2002, and easily that would have been a $160 million film. Now, who knows with Disney's modern budgets where that would have gone. But really lean operation. I believe this is one of the last films to be produced entirely in-house as well. So great job there. Chris Sanders absolutely knows what he's doing. Experienced director there with a small team, and man, oh man, it really did do the numbers. I believe it's got $30 million or so during its initial box office debut here. I think that number will continue to rise as great word of mouth is spreading and spreading quickly as we intimated in the start of this show.
And I think it just goes to show of having an experienced director, someone who's been in the business, they've been in the trenches. Right. I mean, he started in the 90s, working on storyboards. And then I learned that he was the screenwriter, one of the screenwriters for Mulan. And he's just done so much. And it's just contrasts what Disney is doing, where they're kind of throwing any skills or expertise out the door in favor of new blood that hasn't really put in the hours. And he has put in the hours. And I was shocked. He's the only director and he's the only screenwriter. We don't have this movie by committee. And I think it shows. He had a vision that obviously the source material is great. He was able to draw on that, but he had a vision, and it seems like he was unfettered in what he was able to do. And I think in all aspects, from the story to the visuals, to the soundtrack, to the animation style, it's just great. So I want more from Chris Sanders. Let's keep him as our star player for animation.
Absolutely.
Well, me too. There's probably a great video here that I would love to do, talking about the fact that Chris Sanders is obviously the director of this film. I think I mentioned it before we hit record, and forgive me if I'm repeating himself, but Lilo and Stitch is obviously a story about a mother. Nani is a mother character, but she's supposed to be just at 18 or under 18, taking care of little Lilo. And there's so many things that would fly over a kid's head. That wonderful Aloha Oi scene in there that as an adult is just, rips my heart out. But as a kid, it's a sweet little scene where we get to hear Tia Carrera sing. But it's another film by Chris Sanders where he's dealing with family and the importance of family. Or How to Train Your Dragon, which they're about to build an entire land out there at Epic Universe on this very Chris Sanders film down there. That's another one that's adapted, but still. I think Disney is making a lot of mistakes lately, although maybe the replacement of Jennifer Lee might not be one of them. I have a lot of hope for what Jared Bush might do there. There's so many things that I could talk about here, but there is one thing that you said that I want to talk about. I have a source that I've been able to, and I'm very fortunate that they've reached out and talked to me, and this is a person that I trust. So everybody take this with a grain of salt. There's going to be a gap in the DreamWorks schedule here because they have canceled something that was going to be outsourced. There is something outsourced coming, but I think DreamWorks is trying to reverse the decision to outsource. And that gives me a lot of hope for that studio. I'm hoping, because if they can do more like The Wild Robot, that would be absolutely amazing. If they can do more like Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, which Shrek is not my favorite franchise in the world, but Puss in Boots: Last Wish, pretty good film, and it deserved every dollar that it got. They worked hard for their money. They stayed in theaters a long time. So I have a lot of hope for what might be coming down the pike with DreamWorks Animation. And I already know they fought their battle with whether or not they want to be woke, and Ruby Gillman is the worst that we got in all of that. But there's a Dogman film coming around the bend. I don't think that's going to be woke. There's a How to Train Your Dragon live action film, which I think is tangentially going to be DreamWorks. And there's probably a Shrek 5 coming down the pike. So, I think DreamWorks has its house in order to try to push everything in the right direction. And Morgan, forgive me. I knew I said I would stop talking, but you talked about further examinations of films. I have now had to watch Inside Out 2 more times. And I think that while that movie made a ton of money, it makes me worried for the future of Pixar, because that film ain't it, in my opinion. It's not. I don't think that one's going to stand the test of time. I think we're going to be talking about that one the same way we talk about Cars 2.
The Lion King live action, where it just had this huge wave of excitement just because everyone wanted to see it, and then now you don't even want to acknowledge that you even saw that movie to your friends, right?
Right. And there's part of me that wants to go back. I guess I need to watch this thing if we're going to go review Mufasa. Vash, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. It's just wild how like Lion King, for example, it just went gangbusters business. Now we're getting a sequel, right? Mufasa, and hopefully the launch of a expanded universe of all the Lion Kings and so forth. And we'll see how well that works out there. But no, a film like Wild Robot, that's the film that you should be seeing, folks. Inside Out 2, yes, very good. You get the credit where the credit is due. But a smallish production like this, just really, I don't want to say checking all the boxes, but really does do what you expect from an animated film, or maybe even supersedes it in that regard. This film playing out in animation, I don't think you could have used any other medium to tell the story, and man, it takes advantage of that to a great extent. So job well done there by DreamWorks. I do think they have their house in order. We'll see where they go with the future of in-house, out-of-house. We'll see.
I couldn't say it any better than that. Drop a comment if you have on this video that I'm now thinking is probably going to be split into 2 parts. And thank you so much for watching this long. Everybody go check out Rotoscopers and the Animation Addicts podcast, rotoscopers.com. Let me bring it up here on the screen so you can see. That's the one you want to go to right there. And a full review will be out sometime soon there. So go check that out. Morgan, you have anything you want to throw in there?
Check out, anywhere you find podcasts, go to Animation Addicts podcast. We'll be
awesome.
there.
Thank you so much. And thank you for considering subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.